"Don't be so dramatic. Your sister has big news," Mom said when I reminded her about my birthday. I celebrated elsewhere instead. Later, my parents called Nonstop. Turning 21 was supposed to be a big deal. It's the kind of birthday that actually means something, where you're finally a full-fledged adult, no longer stuck with a fake ID when your friends go to the bar. I wasn't expecting some grand celebration, but I thought maybe, just maybe, my family would at least acknowledge it. Turns out, I was dead wrong. Growing up, I learned early on that I wasn't the favorite. My little sister, Jessica, was the golden child. She could do no wrong. If she wanted something, she got it. If she screwed up, there was always an excuse. Me, I was a footnote in my own family, the one who had to fend for himself while my parents bent over backward to cater to her. It wasn't outright cruelty, nothing dramatic or movie-worthy, but that's what made it worse. The subtle neglect, the little dismissals, the quiet way they made it clear that I didn't matter as much. Jessica's piano recitals were treated like the Super Bowl, while my high school graduation was just an obligation they had to sit through. By the time I hit 18, I was already checked out. I moved out as soon as I could, got my own place, and kept my expectations low. But some part of me, some stupid, naive part, still thought that my 21st birthday might be different. That maybe, for once, they'd see me. I didn't even ask for much, just a simple dinner. That morning, I shot a text into the family group chat. "Hey, what time are we meeting for dinner?" No response. I wasn't too surprised at first. My parents weren't glued to their phones like I was, and Jessica barely responded to anyone unless it was about her. Still, as the hours ticked by, that sinking feeling in my gut grew heavier. By noon, I started coming up with excuses for them. Maybe they were busy. Maybe they thought I meant later in the evening, or maybe someone would call me and say, "Hey, Matt, happy birthday, dinner at 7. 3 o'clock rolled around, still nothing. I sat on my couch, phone in hand, staring at the empty chat. It was like a slow-motion car crash, except I was the only one watching. At 3:30, I caved and called my mom. She picked up on the second ring, her voice cheerful, casual, like it was any other day. "Hey, honey, what's up?" I hesitated. Are we still having dinner tonight?" There was a pause, then a sigh. "Oh, sweetheart," she said in that tone people use when they're about to let you down. "I should have told you earlier, we're going out with Jessica tonight." I sat up straighter. "Wait, what?" "Jessica has some big news she wants to share, so we're taking her out to celebrate," Mom said, like it was the most normal thing in the world. I blinked. "It's my birthday," she laughed, actually laughed, like I was a little kid pouting over not getting the last slice of cake. "Oh, Matt, don't be so dramatic. We'll do something for you next weekend, okay?" In the background, I heard Jessica's voice, cheerful, effortless, oblivious. "Is that Matt? Tell him we'll save him some leftovers." More laughter. My stomach twisted. It wasn't just forgetfulness. It wasn't just bad timing. It was deliberate. I could have argued. I could have fought for my place at the table. But what was the point? They knew exactly what they were doing. They just didn't care. So I swallowed the lump in my throat and said, "Yeah, sure, have fun." Then I hung up. I sat there for a while, staring at my phone like it might change something. Like maybe if I stared long enough, a text would pop up saying, "Just kidding, Matt. Of course we're celebrating you." It didn't. My hands were shaking, not from sadness, not even from disappointment. I was pissed. And then an idea hit me. I called Sarah, my girlfriend. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice even. "Wanna go out for dinner tonight?" She picked up on my tone immediately. "Of course, what happened?" I told her, the whole damn thing. She didn't even hesitate. "Come over, my parents will want to celebrate with you too." That was the thing about Sarah's family. They treated me better in the past 3 years than my own parents ever had. I was just her boyfriend, but her mom always made sure to send me a plate of leftovers when I couldn't make it to family dinners. Her dad asked about my job like he actually cared. They noticed me. When I pulled into their driveway, her mom was already at the door. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," she said, pulling me into a hug. "Come in, we're going somewhere nice tonight." I wasn't the kind of guy who got emotional easily, but I swear to God, my chest ached. We ended up at a steakhouse, the kind my parents loved to brag about going to, except this time I was actually wanted there. We ordered drinks, laughed, ate good food. Sarah's dad even ordered a bottle of champagne because, as he put it, the man's finally legal. That deserves a toast. For the first time that day, I actually felt celebrated. And then, as I was finishing my meal, I took a picture of the restaurant entrance and posted it on Instagram. The caption was simple: "Huge thank you to Sarah and her amazing family for making my birthday special. So grateful to have people who actually care about me." I didn't expect a reaction. I figured my parents wouldn't even see it. I figured wrong. Less than an hour later, my phone blew up. First, a text from my mom. "Mom, Matt, what is this post?" Then my dad. "Dad, are you serious right now?" Then the calls started, one after another. I let them ring, and I smirked to myself. They weren't calling because they felt bad. They were calling because I made them look bad, and that was a whole different kind of power. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. The first few times I ignored it, letting it ring until it went to voicemail. Then the texts started pouring in, one after another, like a dam had broken. I didn't even need to read them to know what they said. My parents were furious, not because they forgot my birthday, not because they felt bad for leaving me out, but because I had exposed them. They weren't mad about what they did. They were mad that other people knew about it. That was their real issue. At first, I thought they'd just yell at me, maybe throw in some guilt trips, but my parents never took the direct route. They liked damage control. Instead of addressing the problem, they twisted it, made it look like I was the one overreacting. That was their go-to move: rewrite the story before I had a chance to tell my side. It was always easier to make me look like the unstable, emotional one than to actually take responsibility. I should have expected it. I should have known that they wouldn't let this go. By the next morning, I had texts from my cousin Jake asking what was going on, a missed call from my uncle, and a voicemail from my grandma. "Sweetheart, your mother is heartbroken. She called me in tears last night. She doesn't understand why you're doing this." Of course, she was crying. My mom always cried when she needed sympathy. That was part of the script. Play the victim, make sure everyone sees her pain, and turn the focus away from what she actually did. Then came the kicker. "She said they didn't forget your birthday, Matt. She said they had planned something for next weekend and you just misunderstood." There it was, the rewrite, the new script. Forget the fact that she never texted. Forget the fact that she laughed when I reminded her it was my birthday. Forget the years of favoritism and neglect. None of that mattered, because in her version I wasn't the ignored son. I was the problem child. By noon, I had the full picture. They had called every relative who would listen, spun the story in their favor, and let the manipulation work its way through the family tree. They did what they always did, made themselves the victims before I could even defend myself. I debated responding, explaining my side, but what was the point? They had been planting this narrative for years, setting up the idea that I was too sensitive, too emotional, too dramatic. If I tried to argue now, I'd just be proving them right. Then my dad called. I hesitated before answering, but I knew ignoring him would only escalate things. "Matt, this has gone too far," he said the moment I picked up. No greeting. No happy birthday, not even belated, just straight to business. "You embarrassed your mother, you embarrassed this family." I leaned back in my chair, already exhausted. Did I just say the truth?" His voice lowered, controlled, dangerous. "You have until tonight to take down that post. If you don't, there will be consequences." There it was. The first real threat. I let out a slow breath. I was done playing along. "Like what?" A pause. He hadn't expected me to challenge him. "Matt, I don't want to fight with you," he said, shifting tactics. "I just don't understand why you're doing this. We've always been there for you." I actually laughed. "When?" he sighed. "Son, I'm not going to argue with you." Of course not, because arguing meant facing the truth. Then he dropped the hammer. "You're throwing away your inheritance." I should have seen it coming, but it still caught me off guard. I sat there for a second, letting the words sink in. Then I laughed again, because what else could I do? "And," I said finally. Silence. Then in a tone so sharp it could cut glass, he said, "You really don't care, do you?" "Not even a little." He inhaled sharply. "You're making a mistake." I shook my head. "No, I made the mistake of thinking you actually gave a damn about me." Click, I hung up first. I stared at the phone for a while, waiting for the regret to creep in. But it never did. If anything, I felt lighter. I had spent years trying to be a good son, trying to be worthy of their attention, their love. But now it was so clear. I had been fighting for something that didn't exist, and I was done. That night I got another text, this time from Jessica. "You really had to make a scene, huh?" I could hear her tone through the message, condescending, annoyed, like I was the one ruining things. I didn't reply. What was there to say? She had never seen a problem because it never affected her. She'd never had to fight for attention, never had to wonder if she was loved less. She got the best of them. I got what was left over. Then an email, my mother, long, rambling. The first few paragraphs were all about how much they loved me, how much family should mean everything. The next part shifted, how disappointed they were, how embarrassed they felt, how I was ruining my own reputation. The final blow: "We just hope you can learn to appreciate what we've done for you before it's too late." Classic, a warning disguised as love. I deleted it without responding. By morning, I got confirmation that they had moved on to damage control in full force. A coworker texted me, saying my mom had called her. I almost dropped my phone when I read it. "Dude, your mom called my mom. She said you were in some kind of mental health crisis and needed space. What the hell?" That was a new low. Now they weren't just spinning the narrative to family. They were expanding it, painting me as unstable, making sure no one took me seriously. If I fought back, I'd just be proving them right. I should have been furious. I should have thrown my phone at the wall, but I just felt exhausted. Later that night, Sarah found me sitting on the porch, staring at the darkened sky. She sat next to me, handing me a beer. "They're not going to stop," she said simply. I nodded. "I know." She leaned against me. "So what now?" I exhaled slowly. "Now," I said, tilting my head toward her with a small, tired smile, "I move on." The next morning, I woke up to one last text from my mom. "You've broken my heart. I hope you're happy." No apology, no acknowledgement, just manipulation until the very end. I handed my phone to Sarah. "Do me a favor?" She glanced up. "Yeah, block both of them." She didn't even hesitate. A few taps, and just like that, they were gone. I let out a slow breath, realizing how light I felt. Sarah nudged me. "How do you feel?" I smiled. "Like I can finally breathe." That night, I slept peacefully. They could spin whatever story they wanted, but I was done playing their game. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel obligated to explain myself. I didn't feel the need to make them understand, because I finally realized something. They didn't want to understand. They never did. The next morning, Sarah and I went out for breakfast. It felt normal, like any other day, but in the back of my mind, I knew things weren't over yet. My parents weren't the type to let things go. They weren't going to let me just walk away. And I was right. As soon as I turned my phone back on, the first notification popped up, an email from my dad. I hesitated for a second before opening it. "Matthew, we need to talk. This behavior of yours is unacceptable. You're making a spectacle of this family, and frankly, it's embarrassing. We raised you better than this. You need to stop acting like a child and come home so we can talk like adults. If you don't, there will be lasting consequences for the choices you're making. You may not realize it now, but you are burning bridges that you won't be able to rebuild. Family is forever. You'll regret this." There it was, the final warning, the last attempt to pull me back in. Come home, fall in line, obey, or else. I stared at the email for a long time, my mind running through all the ways I could respond. I could argue. I could explain one last time why I was done with this. But what would that change? They didn't listen when I was a kid. They didn't listen when I was a teenager. And they sure as hell weren't going to listen now. I took a deep breath and typed out my reply. "There's nothing to talk about. You made your choices, and now I'm making mine. If you're embarrassed, that's your problem, not mine. I'm done. Don't contact me again." I hit send, then for good measure I blocked both of their emails. Sarah glanced up from her coffee. "You okay?" I nodded. "Yeah." A week passed. I expected some kind of follow-up, but it was quiet. Too quiet. Then one night I got a call from my landlord. "Hey, Matt, sorry to bug you so late, but I just wanted to check in on something. Your mom called the office today, said she needed to confirm your lease details for some family emergency." Sounded weird, so I figured I'd go straight to you. I clenched my jaw. Unbelievable. They were trying to track me down. I forced a laugh. "Yeah, that's not a family emergency. That's just them being controlling." "That's what I figured," he sighed. Listen, I don't know what's going on with you guys, but if you want, I can put a note on your file. Nobody gives them information without your direct approval. I let out a slow breath. Yeah, that'd be great. All right, consider it done. Take care, kid. I hung up, my grip tightening around the phone. They weren't just mad, they were desperate. Desperate people do stupid things. I needed to be careful. Sure enough, the next day, Sarah got a text from an unknown number. I know you're the one turning him against us. I don't know what you've been telling him, but you don't get to take our son away. You will regret this. Sarah rolled her eyes. Wow, they really think I'm some evil mastermind, huh? They think you're the problem because that's easier than admitting they're the problem. I blocked the number. The final straw came a few days later. I was at work when my manager pulled me aside. Hey, Matt, I just wanted to check in. Your dad called the office this morning, said he was concerned about you and wanted to know if everything was okay. I stared at him. You're kidding. Wish I was. He gave me a sympathetic look. I didn't give him any info, don't worry, just thought you should know. I let out a breath, shaking my head. I don't even know what to say. I've seen this kind of thing before, he said. Parents who can't handle the fact that their kid is an adult. They try to hold on any way they can. Just be careful, all right? I nodded. Yeah, I will. My chest was tight with anger. They were trying to sabotage me. If they could convince people that I was unstable, that I was acting out, then maybe they could regain control. But I wasn't that kid anymore. I wasn't scared of them. I went home that night and called a lawyer. Nothing extreme, just enough to find out what my options were. Could they legally harass my job? Could they find ways to mess with my lease? How far could they push before I had real grounds to take action? Turns out I had more power than I thought. I documented everything, texts, emails, call logs. I updated my HR file to make sure they knew not to release any information to anyone claiming to be a family member. I tightened every loose end they could use against me. And then I sent my final message. You have crossed every line imaginable. You have tried to manipulate, lie, and interfere in my life, and I will not tolerate it. This is the last time I will say this. Do not contact me again. If you do, I will take legal action. For weeks, I waited for the fallout. Maybe they'd send more messages. Maybe they'd show up at my door. Maybe they'd escalate, but nothing happened. They finally got the message. Sarah and I celebrated that night. We went out, got dinner, and toasted to my freedom. You did it, she said, smiling over her glass of wine. Yeah, I said, staring down at my drink. I guess I did. She reached across the table, squeezing my hand. Are you okay? I thought about it, really thought about it. You know what, I am, and I was. Looking back, I think I always knew this was where it was going to end. Maybe not in the exact way it happened, but in some form or another it was inevitable. You don't spend your whole life being the afterthought and then suddenly become the priority. People don't change unless they want to, and my parents never wanted to. The thing about toxic family dynamics is that they trick you into believing you have to play along. That blood means loyalty, that you owe them your silence, but you don't. You never did. Walking away wasn't easy. It hurt. It still does sometimes. But for the first time in my life, I'm free to build something better, free to surround myself with people who actually care. Family isn't about blood, it's about choice, and I finally chose myself.